Today we have a 2006 Chrysler 300. We'll be replacing the brake caliper, brake pads, and front rotors. So let's get to it. Alright y'all, so the first thing you're going to do to replace the brake caliper, the brake pad, and the rotor is obviously remove the wheel. With the number 19 the impact gun, we're going to remove the 5 lug nuts holding the wheel in place and get the wheel out the way. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and just remove the entire caliper. With a number 18, we're going to remove 2 bolts holding the bracket in place, one here and one up here. So let's get this out the way. But before we go ahead and do that, let's go ahead and break the brake line here. With the number 13, we're going to remove this, I believe it's a banjo bolt, so we're going to go ahead and remove that and swing the brake line out the way, and then we'll get the caliper. So I've removed that number 13 banjo bolt from the brake line here, so I'm just going to swing this to the side with my little plug on it. Just an FYI, there will be a washer on both ends that you will need to remove when installing the new brake caliper and banjo bolt, so make sure they are not on there. Mine was stuck on the bottom here, so I went ahead with the pick, removed it. Also want to close the line up. So now with the number 18, we're going to remove those 2 bolts holding the brake caliper in place. So after removing those 2 18 millimeters in the back here, I'm just going to slide the caliper off. Some fluid might come out. As you can see, mine is. Just slide it off. You can use a pry tool as well from right here and just get it out the way. So now we're going to get this rotor out the way. Put a little WD-40 in the center there, the hubcap, and then we're going to knock it from the back and loosen it out. So because I'm replacing the entire caliper, I'm not going to have to actually show the whole process of changing the brake pad. I'm kind of going to cheat my way through it, but if you were to change the brake pad, not the caliper, using a number 13, you would remove these 2 bolts here, and which would release here to get the brake pad off the bracket. If you're going to remove the rotor, obviously you have to remove the bracket as well. But if you're just going to do the brake pads, you can just remove these 13s and slide. Once you do that, you're going to need to break this line here to bleed it when you compress the piston here for the caliper. After you do that, go ahead and install the new brake pads on the caliper bracket here, as well as lube up these bolts here, these guides here for it. My new one is already lubed up, so I don't have to do any of that. I'm just going to slide my brake pads in and get it in place. But just giving you a little FYI on how to do that if you do not remove the entire caliper like we are doing today. So after letting some WD-40 sit on that, I just went in the back here and knocked it with a hammer until it came out, obviously leaving a lug nut in so it didn't fly out. So now all we're going to do is pull this one off and put the new rotor on. So my new rotor is slid on with a couple lug nuts in place to hold it secure. If the brake caliper was still on and you just removed the bracket holding it, you could swing the brake caliper up here and just let it hang while we take this off and put a new one in. So now let's get the new brake caliper prepared to go in place. So we have our new caliper here, as well as new banjo bolt with crush washers as well. As you can see, these are already lubed up. Can't really see on camera, but those are lubed up. That's what you would lube up on if you were just to replace the brake pads itself. And if you were to push in the piston after taking off the old brake pads, this is how it should look as well. Now because it looks like this, I can just go ahead and get the hardware installed in here and slide my brake pads in, and then slide this onto the rotor. So I'm going to get the hardware in, and I'll show you how to position that in, as well as after that I will put the brake pads in and show you all how that will go. Now the hardware just snaps into place right there, as you can see. Let me give you all a view of the hardware here. So this part right here that connects it together will be facing the back. So if I were to slide it in, let's see if I can get this done with one hand on camera. You would go ahead and, I am dropping this all over the place. Get this in like so. Being sure that part fits right there. So there you are. Now we're gonna get the brake pads prepared to go in here. So I actually went ahead and just threw the brake pads in the caliper here. Can't really go wrong with them. They only go one direction. The curved end will be facing us, towards us, outward. Just get those ears inside the little hardware clips there, and pretty much just slide it in. So now we're gonna go ahead and throw this on top of the rotor, sliding the rotor right into here, and then bolting it down. So I slid my new caliper on with the brake pads in place. Because the piston isn't engaged yet, you will have enough clearance to just slide it right on. Like I said before, if you were just If you were replacing the brake pads from here, you could just remove the caliper itself, then remove the bracket separately, and then replace the rotor, then slap the rotor back on, put the bracket back on, lube up these 13mm bolts here back up with the brake pads set into the bracket, slam the caliper back on, then tighten these back up, and you pretty much would be finished with that process. But because we replaced the whole caliper, a little simpler process. We just removed the whole caliper and tightened it back in with the brake pads inside of it already with the rotor. So now I'm gonna get this banjo bolt out and get ready to put the brake line in. So as you can see, there's 2 crush washers, one on each end of the brake line. So the brake line will go on top of here with that crush washer, then the bolt with the crush washer on the other end back in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this out and get ready to put the brake line in. So now our new brake caliper, brake pads, and rotor is fully installed. We tightened down the brake line here, the number 10. You can see 1 crush washer right there, the other one's on the other side, can't really see it. The 2 bolts holding the entire caliper to the bracket is in place. Now with the number 10, we're gonna remove this here and bleed the brakes. So that's pretty much all we have left to do. We can throw a tire back on and top off the brake fluid loss. I believe this is .3. Just check the cap and you'll be done. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos to come.